Welcome back, everybody, to the show. Welcome back to another week. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. We had a crazy weekend. Went out in San Marcos, Texas, and horrible things happened. Okay? Horrible things happened. Overall, a good night, but someone was very strange. I'll tell you that story on the bonus show. Click the join button on YouTube to get the bonus show if you're interested. So much to talk about today, of course, Iran war updates, but more so the political fallout today. The different prominent MAGA influencers distancing themselves, and then infighting within MAGA, including the quote-unquote micro-penis bomb being dropped by someone. That's crazy. Caroline Leavitt's upset that people are reporting on factual information. You have prominent MAGA influencers just like bullying a child on the internet for being too quote-unquote feminine, and so much more. So let's dive right in. Caroline Leavitt is very unhappy that we are learning what, by the way, we kind of already could have assumed, which is Trump, obviously, the guy who can't actually read comprehensive intelligence reports or presidential briefings, and they have to be turned into fourth grade slideshows with under 400 words. Clearly, he wasn't understanding in a complicated way what he was bringing the United States into with the war, including the disruptions to the energy market, which Iran, you could have expected, was going to do as this war drags on, which is attacking ships in the Strait of Hormuz, which is causing the largest disruption to the oil market in documented history. So the story goes something like this. Top Trump officials acknowledged to lawmakers during recent classified briefings that they did not plan for the possibility of Iran closing the strait in response to strikes, per three sources. I'll show you other reporting in a second here about Trump specifically and what his quote was for why we're going to war. And it's crazy, but Leavitt was angry, saying this story is 100% fake news. CNN decided to run this garbage based on three anonymous sources familiar with the discussions. Yes, this is, you're just describing what it was. This is despite the fact that myself, the Secretary of War, the Secretary of State, and multiple lawmakers who were actually present for the recent classified briefings have directly disputed this false reporting. And then she goes on and on and on. You can see it's a long post, but we were perfectly prepared. We understood. It was all mapped out. And it's crazy to say they ran this reporting despite the fact that the people who don't want this to be leaked said it wasn't true. Like, that doesn't actually... How dare you run this reporting when me, Caroline Leavitt, principal, the honesty person, said that it wasn't true. Doesn't convince me. But the bombshells buried inside a new Axios dispatch. Here's another example. It lays bare a deep fracture inside Trump's inner circle, now navigating week 3 of a bloody conflict that's claimed at least 13 American lives, left more than 1,400 Iranians dead, and produced one of the worst civilian atrocities attributed to the U.S. military in decades, being the blowing up of the school. A source close to the administration told the outlet that key officials had not been fully on board with Trump's plans before the 79-year-old president overruled them all. And this is the thinking of Trump. We're going to war. We're going to war. And numerous leaks now from people who probably want to undermine this because they don't agree with it, is my assumption. So they're revealing what's happening behind the scenes of what was happening before that, which is that Trump didn't think, here's a headline, Trump reportedly told aides Iran wouldn't block Strait of Hormuz if U.S. attacked. Worst prediction ever going into a war. Obviously, that's exactly what happened. But then here's the quote. He ended up saying, this is some White House insider, I just want to do it. I just want to. That's what it boiled down to. Because you know how we kept going, what? He ran against stuff like this. He really struggles to explain what the end goal here is. How does this become worth it? Are we really going to convert Iran, the Iranian government, I should say, into an excellent pro-Western government that doesn't oppress its people and that has a great democratic system? And are we going to do that just by bombing stuff? Okay, Khomeini was killed, but then his sons did place. What exactly happening? And what is Trump's reasoning? His reasoning is, I just want to do it. That's the quote. He grossly overestimated it continues, his ability to topple the regime short of sending in ground troops. Now, other reporting indicates he thought it was going to be more like Venezuela, where we can just go in, grab the leader, and then the successor will be like, you know what, I don't want that to happen to me, so I'll work with you. But as a bunch of people said before, this is not Venezuela. It's very different. It's very, very different. And the fact that he wasn't able to predict that tells you a lot about his thinking. You also have reporting that oil executives have secretly warned Trump that it could get a whole heck of a lot worse, at least on the energy front, not to mention the human toll. And then think about the gall here. What has been one of the landmark legacy items of Trump's second administration? Spitting in the face of our allies, right? It's not even like I, as a lib, am characterizing Trump that way because I'm bitter. I kind of think that Trump's supporters go, yes, we're spitting in the face of our allies. We're so sick of them. They're so annoying. And that's been Zelenskyy in the Oval Office, the way Trump has managed trade wars, his saying that we're going to annex Canada, we're going to take over Greenland, and it goes on and on. That's been like his thing. The trade war he launched was all about attacking our allies, and it pushed them away. And then imagine, after you do that, going, why aren't our allies leaping to our defense here? Why aren't they jumping in to support us? You have this White House Press Secretary Leavitt has demanded that America's allies step up and help Donald Trump's war efforts. And most European nations refuse to get embroiled in the conflict with Iran. So on one side, you have, if they don't even agree with the reasoning here, because this wasn't defensive, so our NATO allies wouldn't be required to intervene. This was an offensive action. They probably either way would be very hesitant to help. But imagine you just got backhanded over and over and over by Trump, and then he's like, wait, come help. Wait, come help me now. And a bunch of our allies are saying, no, absolutely not. But it's not that it's not that there's not a single person you can find who supports this. Some people do. Newt Gingrich has a little idea. Nuke. Newt Gingrich wants nuke. Literally, instead of fighting, he says, over a 21-mile-wide bottleneck forever, we cut a new channel through friendly territory. A dozen thermonuclear detonations, and you've got a waterway wider than the Panama Canal, deeper than the Suez, and safe from Iranian attacks. That sounds like my love for you is wider than the Panama Canal, deeper than the Suez. And I just love you as... So, do you know what he was attaching to? Hey, get over it. Lukey does say, no, Nuke. So we do have that at lukebeaslmerch.com if you want to wear it. But do you know what he was attaching to his tweet to substantiate this argument of just blow some stuff up, then we got a new canal? Was a satirical article that ends with the views expressed above do not necessarily represent those of anyone with brain cells. So someone wrote a satirical open letter to Secretary Hegseth being like, just blow some stuff up and we can make like a new waterway. And you had Newt Gingrich being like, that is a great idea. That is just a wonderful idea. So what is the term that can be used aside from a lot of terms? Insane, detrimental, destructive. I think a term that describes this administration, their approach to this war, is incompetent. And that shouldn't surprise us because on so many fronts, this administration, while dangerous and destructive and irrational, has been incompetent. Like handing over to barely out of high schoolers the keys to our government under the tutelage of Elon Musk and saying, cut whatever you want from our government, including cancer research, critical funds to critical programs, without any thinking or contemplation. Guys like this dude who had to sit for a deposition because of a lawsuit relating to his actions along with Elon Musk during the doging of the government. And watch this little moment.
You don't regret that people might have lost important income to support their lives?
No. I think it was more important to reduce the federal deficit from 2.
So the question is, do you feel bad at all for a bunch of people losing their livelihood because you kind of threw a big temper tantrum and fired a bunch of people and then had to rehire, then fire, and then rehired and mistreated. And he says, no, because we had to cut the deficit.
I think it was more important to reduce the federal deficit from $2 trillion to close to zero.
Did you reduce the federal deficit?
No, we didn't.
No, we didn't. So that sums it up. Yeah, I think we had to ruin people's lives and destroy all of these programs and lay off a bunch of federal employees because we had to reduce the deficit. And the interviewer goes, or the lawyer says, so did you reduce the deficit? He goes, no, we didn't. No, we somehow did. I don't honestly even know how they did this. You destroy a bunch of programs and literally cost millions of lives abroad because of the dismantling of USAID, not to mention the lives that have been upended in the United States. And still the deficit wasn't reduced. I know it's because it's being offset by other actions by the Trump administration, but that's almost in a sick way an achievement. I don't know how you do that. That's incompetence at a truly jarring scale. And so we shouldn't be surprised that that same administration that came in initially and was like, hey, kids, literally some of these are nearly kids, but they're adults, so they should be held responsible for their actions. But go run around and take classified information and grab people's personal information and destroy a bunch of programs and what the hell, have fun. That administration is also not going to manage war well, I think it's fair to say. Thank you all so much for joining us today. We have... I don't know if I'll get to all of this, but let's just put it in the bazillions of stories to talk about today. So get ready. Midas Simon, who's been a member for 2 months, said just reached another milestone watching in Lancashire, right? England. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it greatly. Haha David, member for a month, said I'm going to sign up for an ongoing membership. Thank you, Intuition Jen, for the gifted membership that got me started. Thank you, Luke, Cole, and Jade. That is amazing. Yes, thank you, Intuition Jen, but then also thank you, Haha David, because that's a funny that's a funny username. Because a lot of people, I think, get the free membership from a patriot like Intuition Jen, but then kind of forget to themselves after month 1 become a reoccurring member, and it makes quite the difference when you choose to do that. Riley McClure said Jeffrey Pepstein. Hey, don't you dare link Pep to Jeffrey Epstein. But if you hate Jeffrey Epstein, do go to drinkpep.com and get yourself some energy, right? Gut-friendly, healthy. These Pep drinks are high character, okay? For high character people. And it's made by myself, my 2 brothers, who are both currently serving in the military and managing this business. Shockingly, drinkpep.com. Order it to your doorstep. Unless you like Jeffrey Epstein, then I guess that would be the only group of people who wouldn't order some Pep. Okay, so there's your options. Terry Buttleman said, keep up the great work. I appreciate that. MM said, is Luke's hair lopsided, or am I just old and that's a new style? There's no really rhyme or reason to the hair. It's kind of just, it just does what it do, I think is the way to put it. Ronald came, sent a gifted membership, and I appreciate all of you for engaging. Now we have one of the weirder stories, and one of the ones I'm most excited to talk about today. Let's get into it now. There's a U.S. military service woman and social media icon named Jessica Foster, who's very MAGA, okay? And if you scroll through her account, you see, number one, a lot of, I guess, Trump supporters, or maybe bot accounts, who knows, are pumped at her social media posts. You can see her walking with President Trump. You can see her speaking at something called the Border of Place. You have her taking a selfie with Trump in the Oval Office, a beautiful woman, and presumably someone in one of the branches of the military based on these photographs. For some reason, you can see a lot of photos that show her feet prominently, but then again, a lot of just fun times and pro-Trump content. The only problem is the million people following her are following someone who doesn't exist and is AI. And she then links to, I guess, some sort of adult content. So people are paying to see inappropriate content of their favorite MAGA influencer who is not a real person. But the troops love Trump is what this account is portraying. So, I mean, look at The fact that anyone sees this and is like, yeah, that's definitely a member of the armed forces. Someone who's like taking foot pics in the middle of what looks like some sort of meeting with other service members doesn't make any sense. She's doing podcasts, but I love how none of the followers, 1 million followers, that's more than we have on Instagram, less than we have on YouTube. But I love how none of them go Google like Trump, Jake Paul, and what did something come in? No, it's just a little bit. And see if she shows up at any podcast. But there's just a photo of her in a podcast. Selfies in the Oval Office. Here's the headline. She's a beautiful soldier who loves Trump, and MAGA loves her back, but she doesn't exist. This reminds me of that story we talked about before where this wasn't AI, but the likeness of European models was being used, and then they would just edit on like MAGA merch to them, and then they were garnering these huge audiences on social media saying we love Trump and real patriots stand with the president, and it was fake. And also, can I just say the politicization, the merging of politics and sexuality, there's something interesting there. Picturing like a MAGA guy, okay? So MAGA brosif, seeing this photo with the feet and being like, yes, I can finally get turned on by a woman who's also a soldier, who's also a Trump supporter. Oh man, I love seeing Trump with a hot girl. It's like, I don't know what, there's something psychosexually going on there that needs to be examined, but I'm uncomfortable with it. Since last November, a beautiful blonde U.S. Army soldier has been rubbing elbows with President Donald Trump while amassing a legion of more than 1 million Instagram followers. Of the 50 photos on her account as of March 13th, 14 feature the female soldier in military uniform alongside either Trump or First Lady Melania. Let's see. There's that. Apparently, Trump's giving her roses, or she's giving him roses. Yeah. I mean, honestly, that is kind of crazy. That does look pretty real. If I'm going to be frank with you, that does look pretty darn real, which is the scary part. But this is the world that we're in, right? It's probably some foreign, I mean, it could be anyone, but it might be like a foreign government op. And that's what some of these have been traced back to, which is you either steal the likeness of someone else, often like a beautiful person, and then you edit images or AI generate them to appear as if they're a big supporter of Trump's or if they know Trump. And then people just don't even check it and start getting so hyped about this influencer and God bless Trump and all that, not even understanding that it might just be some Russian dude in the Kremlin. Okay. And then the Russian dude is saying, I saw somewhere, maybe in this article, that it was like, I respond to every message on either OnlyFans or wherever, whatever like sexual content site she's using. And so there's presumably Trump supporters who see her with Trump and then see her like with her feet out. And they're like, those are both the things I need to be turned on. And I got a foot fetish and a Trump fetish. And then they're chatting with, oh yes, please, send me more money. I love you too. Someone behind a keyboard tricking them. Ah! And then if they make enough money off of the fake AI sexual content, they can fund more social media ops to artificially boost the support of Trump. Yikes. Meta requires AI disclosures, but it's not working. The bio for her reads America First. Beneath the MAGA-friendly text, the bio provides a link to a site featuring sexually explicit content of the AI soldier. The profile does not include a disclosure that it's AI. By the way, I respond to every message, but be patient since I'm not a robot. Haha. They're just like mocking these poor people. It's so sad. Some people are gonna like give their life savings to her. Please. She's like, yes, you can come visit me do you want to come to the Oval Office with me? Just send me $1,000 more. Another image posted on January 8th shows Foster seated in a military vehicle in combat uniform. Yeah, that's this could be a foreign government's propaganda, or it could be U.S. propaganda. Ganda. And that's one of the problems with AI-generated influencers is there's no transparency or accountability for who's generating the images, writing the captions, making the money. Where is this profit going? And then also the sexualization of female service members is another aspect to this. So just if you see Jessica Foster pop up and you go, I used to like Luke and liberal stuff, but now I see Jessica and she's a patriot and she loves Trump and now I have to love Trump. And this is definitely the outfits that army soldiers wear. And they definitely do. Look, me and my friend are wrestling in our bunk beds. Just know it's not real. Be on the lookout. Now, this is a huge problem. And what have I explained to you before about especially certain generations are having a very difficult time discerning between AI and not AI. I've had relatives send me, wow, look at this video. A zebra, this is crazy. A zebra jumped off of a bridge, grabbed a rope with his mouth, swung and picked up with his hooves a dog that was drowning in the water. That's crazy. And you're like, that's AI. And they go, what? Oh, and it's almost like they're mad at you for telling them, hey, I liked believing that. And so in politics, that creates a tranche of problems, obviously, because you can, as we've seen in James Tallarico's race already, Republican PACs have created, or, Republican groups have created ads where he's saying things, but it's not a real video. It's him, an AI version of him. We've seen this in a lot of different cases. But then the other aspect to it that is irritating is that, yes, you have fake influencers being created to make it seem like there's a lot of support for something or to stoke division. You have kind of the creepiness of like a fake image seducing people into sending them money. There's something off about that. But then on the other end in politics, you have the ability to pretend like real things must be AI, and people are so disoriented and confused about what's real, not real. They just go, you know what? I'll just believe what I want to believe is real. For example, Trump raged at the media and said they should be charged with treason over Iran peddled AI clips. And there was one, I can't read you through all of this, but there was one video that was real, and Trump went, no, it must be AI. Or, so that's on that end, which is people, I have one other clip to show you. People like Trump will often go, oh, a video that's not good for me, that's AI, even when it's not. And that's what we've seen from Trump. But then we go back to fake images, which is people create fake content to make their followers outraged, but it's not even real. So this was supposed to be an example from a right-wing account of how some liberal with colorful hair was berating a MAGA patriot.
Get out of my way! I'm a woman! I need to use the bathroom!
My wife's in there. I'm not letting anyone else in right now.
You don't get to tell me where I can go! Move!
You can wait or you
I'm not waiting! I'm going in, so step aside!
Whoa, he's yelling. Keep filming.
Get out of my way! I'm a woman!
So... Is anyone in the comments saying this is real? Most of the people in the comments are saying that's obviously AI. But apparently there are so few videos of transgender women who appear to be very man presenting, which is like the fear that someone who just looks like a dude would walk into a woman's restroom and say, no, I'm a transgender woman, I could be in here. Apparently there's so few examples of that actually happening that they had to create a fake video where apparently this is how it's going to happen, which is a person identifying as a woman that looks like a man screams in the face of a dude with a USA hat on who's saying, my wife's in there. And then the person screaming wanting to go in the restroom says, I am a woman! Let me into that women's restroom! But it's obviously AI. And then you have people posting, this was almost the commander and chief. Not in chief, and chief. And it's supposed to be Kamala. And they're saying, can you imagine she was almost president? Let me mute it. Podcast listeners, it's obviously an AI Kamala, and it had to be community noted. So look out, because it's getting crazy out there. Jessica, what was the name? Jessica Foster. 1 million followers. That's bonkers. That's absolutely bonkers. And people are getting weird. They're getting weird and freaky. And she's like, yes, I do have the link. Go look at my nudes. And guys are like, yes. And it's just some Russian dude. Whew. That's wacky, huh? Okay, wow. So many comments came in since the segment started. Let me read some of them and then we'll get back to the MAGA infighting. Hillary Badillery sent a gifted membership and then another gifted membership later and then another gifted membership after that. Zaddy Maddie became a member by clicking the join button. Shane said, will make no difference but need to vent. I blame Biden for all of this. He should have never tried to run again. We are dealing with ego. I wouldn't say it makes sense to blame Biden for all of this. I understand saying, really? Biden and the people around him and the Democrats, hey, if you had gotten your act together a little better, then we maybe could have won the election and we wouldn't be here. That's fine. I also don't like when it feels like the quote unquote adults in the room get blamed for everything instead of the also technical adults on the other side who are doing the bad things. So make sure that we properly weigh. Trump got elected because people voted for him. And even with the chaos of the Biden on the ticket, the dropping off, and then Kamala and any problems with her campaign, it was still obvious how destructive Trump would be and how Kamala would have been a much better president with her faults. And people chose the wrong option still. And I think that's the most important aspect. And there were systemic factors that were working against whoever was the incumbent party, which we saw across Western nations and elections during the pandemic price surges. But yes, I have had moments where I get really upset thinking through what could have been if Biden in the first place hadn't made a decision that led to obviously a very chaotic and ultimately electorally harmful series of events. Key on in sent 5 gifted memberships. Jack Glancy said, please, America, impeach the Mango Mussolini ASAP. He's decomposing in real time, both mentally and physically, and he's going to take everyone with him. That's a scary thought. I wish he could be impeached and removed as well. I don't know if the numbers will be there for that. Senorita Pinstripes said, making money off of gullible men. Haha. Oh, MAGA. I can't get over it. I can't get over it. They're like, yeah, that's a real photo. Sitting in command center with all your legs out and your bare feet, your little toesies, like dancing around. I'm sure that's exactly how command centers look. Kiko Cappy, thank you. Russ Mosquito said, my little conspiracy is that AI is getting pushed so hard on social media so that nothing can be taken as credible online anymore. That is something that will benefit the authoritarian. I don't know if it's being done on purpose, but the authoritarian, whether it's Trump or one in the future and in other nations, benefit a lot from people deciding truth is a matter of interpretation. The closer we get to a complete post-truth world where it's just sort of, it's a matter of your own characterization of the world or decision about what is true and what is not, the more exploitation of that environment can be done by authoritarians. All right, now we get into a real fun one. What have I said for a while now? Everyone fights. Any movement has infighting. The left, liberals have clashed with each other. It'll get heated. You're a fraud. Oh, you probably just want Trump to win. You don't even care about what you're fighting for. You're a grifter, right? Those cuts can cut deep. But no one fights as dirty as MAGA influencers. There's just nothing like it. They get down low to the point where the guy you're seeing on screen there, who's on the pro-war Trump loyalist side, is clashing with the anti-Iran war, still kind of Trump fans, but critical of some of his decisions. And all of them are insane. Obviously, I'm opposed to us being at war with Iran. And the people within the MAGA movement who agree to that, many of them are still insane. Okay, so I just want to... But the clash has gone nuclear. Or maybe better said, has gone micro. Which is a micro penis allegation being made. And that's something. And I just want to say as a caveat, and then I'll break down all this for you. And then Trump comes out and he's like, no. I'll explain in a second. None of what's going to be said in this segment is meant to mock or belittle our micro penis viewers or community. That is not a decision you make, but sometimes people level that, right, allegation or that statement in a way to degrade. And I don't stand for it. Okay, I just don't. But I do want to review, and we probably will laugh at how petty this fight got. So again, the Mark Levin Trump corner, the Tucker Carlson Megyn Kelly corner. Those are the two kind of sides in this clash, and there's a lot more people in either corner. Here's Mark Levin. We don't talk about him a ton, just to remind you about who he is.
Commander-in-Chief Donald Trump, who's facing the same kind of ugly internal forces as Roosevelt did, who's facing the same kind of enemy that Jefferson did and Madison did. Just remember this. This is a righteous war that seeks peace. Peace. Again, changing slightly the quote from Madison in 1815, peace is better than war, he said. But war is better than nuclear annihilation. He said war is better than enslavement.
Two choices. War, enslavement. You choose. That's kind of... Can I pick option C? Why are you setting me up? What is it in The Office when he says, either you do this or you do this? You choose. It's like that. I can never remember it. When you just set up absurd options. All right, you give me $10, you give me $20. You choose. It's up to you.
In 1815, peace is better than war, he said. But war is better than nuclear annihilation. He said war is better than enslavement. War is better than nuclear annihilation. I ask you, what do you think Jefferson and Madison would do in these circumstances today? What do you think Franklin Roosevelt would do in these circumstances today? Or Abraham Lincoln, or George Washington, or even Ronald?
I think a lot of those people would be like, what is this device? They'd say, I've never liked artificial intelligence. What's so artificial about it? I think that's what Washington would say. Oh, wait, that was Trump in the modern day.
Reagan, when they didn't have nuclear weapons in Iran, what do you think they would do?
They still don't have nuclear weapons in Iran. So there's that. Well, then he's been clashing for a while at Megyn Kelly and him have been beefing, and him and Tucker Carlson. And Mark Levin says, poor Megyn Kelly, an emotionally unhinged, lewd, and petulant wreck. She's completely revealed and destroyed herself. She's everything people say she is, but much worse. Never an intelligent, thoughtful, or substantive comment. Utterly toxic. To which Megyn Kelly said, micro-penis Mark thinks he has the monopoly on lewd. He tweets about me obsessively in the crudest, nastiest terms possible. Literally more than some stalkers I've had arrested. He doesn't like it when women like me fight back because of his micro penis. I love how she... This is so wild. I love how she starts with micro penis Mark, and then at the end she's like, don't forget, I'm saying he has a micro penis. She circles back. He is micro penis Mark is a terrible guy, and he's really mean, and no one likes him. Again, because of his micro penis. Okay, so there's that. So then Marjorie Taylor Greene jumps in and is like, hey, hell yeah, I wholeheartedly support... I don't know what word I just said there, wholeheartedly. Megyn Kelly telling the world that Mark Levin has a micro penis. And it's the most deserved insult, and I don't care if it's vulgar. And Trump's gigantic defense of Levin only enraged the base more. People are done. MAGA destroyed by micro penis Mark Levin. So why are they all saying it like he definitely does and it's confirmed? I don't know. Like, it's one thing to go, oh, micro penis Mark, meaning like, oh, you have a little penis, in a sort of kids in middle school insulting each other in a childish way. I don't understand why Marjorie goes, I support her sharing with the public that Mark Levin has a micro penis. But then... So then there's an op-ed, right? The Mark Levin question, does he really have a micropenis or just act like it? So then this quote I could not get over. This is, on its face, an extremely serious allegation. It also presents an obvious methodological problem. The only way to confirm such a claim would involve circumstances so deeply troubling that they would likely require both law enforcement and several very uncomfortable depositions. So this op-ed jumps in and goes, Mark, drop your trousers. Let's settle this. And take it as a serious thing. Absent such evidence, thankfully, responsible observers must rely on circumstantial indicators. Fortunately, modern political broadcasters offers a rich data set. So, yes, is Megyn Kelly and Marjorie Greene and whoever else being completely childish, and this does not add to a substantive discussion of why it's so dangerous and incompetent the way the Trump administration is managing the Iran war? Yes. Is it also the case that Mark Levin is a really unhinged figure? Do you remember when we covered him ranting about Trump's indictments and he was like near tears screaming about how Trump is the biggest victim in the world? It's like, we don't need to take him seriously either. But that's what's so fun about this is that they get so, imagine which this would never happen because bestie alert, but imagine I was beefing with David Pakman and then he's like, Luke has a microphone. Like, you could never even imagine that. It just doesn't happen in left-wing infighting. So then we don't know if it's because Trump heard that this was going around and he's thinking, whoa. Let's not attack people for having micropenis. He said, Mark Levin, a truly great American patriot, is somewhat under siege by other people with far less intellect, capability, and love for our country. Mark is tough, strong, hard, and brilliant, hence the nickname The Great One, conceived by our MAGA friend, the wonderful Sean Hannity, after years of dealing with Mark in legal, media, and other capacities. So again, Trump does not comment on the allegation here, but it's just the timing is funny that as this is erupting, he's like, actually, Mark's a great guy. It's just a weird timing for him to jump in on it. So we don't know what the other capacities are that would give Hannity insight on this. But Mark would often do Sean's show, speaking as a lawyer, and Sean realized then, as did others, that he was special. He was special. Okay. Mark Levin, to which Megyn Kelly's like, yeah, I told you how special he is. Mark Levin was not looking to do television, radio, or anything else, but he was drafted by very smart people who understood that there are very few people like him. He's a true conservative, blah-de-blah-de-blah. He's great, and he's wonderful, and God bless everything because he loves my war. But one thing that's a little bit notable is that he said stuff like, when you hear others unfairly attack Mark, remember that they're jealous and angry human beings. He won't name them. It's so weird. I mean, he did name Tucker when he said, Tucker's not MAGA, he's a fraud or whatever. But in this post, he won't actually name who's attacking Mark Levin. So I will not tell you what's in this image, but Ron Filipkowski said, understandable that Trump would fire off a late night rant defending Mark Levin after Megyn Kelly said Levin had, can we just call it an MP? An MP. And then I'll just tell you, actually, podcast listeners, do you remember when Stormy Daniels, the person who Trump cheated with while Melania was home with a newborn child, Trump's newborn child? Stormy Daniels went on Kimmel one time, and Kimmel put up different mushroom sizes and asked if Stormy Daniels would pick one, if you catch my drift. So then I guess Ron Filipkowski's insinuation is that Trump, is defensive of Levin for that particular allegation. This led to people such as Megyn Kelly saying that Mark Levin had gone to Daddy and had said, Daddy, meaning Trump, defend me. They're saying I have an MP. And so then Mark responded to that saying, no, I did not speak to the president about releasing any statement. These reprobates have nothing but lies and conspiracies and hate, and the more they talk and post, the more people have had enough of them. They will eventually dry up and blow away like those who've come before them. Yeah, I mean, Mark, you can't really call people out for being too hateful. If you want to defend your stance, defend it. But like, you're insane on social media, as are some of the other people in the story. But you'll go around and just anytime people say things you don't like, U.S. citizens, you'll be like, deport, 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 which is very hateful, you understand. So you're not really great at representing a non-hateful articulation of your stance, I would just say. Now, then people on the Levin side, you keep it track. This is drama, okay? And you're here for it, but keep track with it. So now people on the pro-Levin side, the MP community, went and found an old Megyn Kelly podcast where she was upset with Cardi B for being vulgar. So I guess they're saying she's a hypocrite because, she was mad at Cardi B for being vulgar, but now she's talking about the MP of Levin.
But she's crass. I mean, she's really crass in the way she talks about, and we're supposed to think it's empowerment. I've really tried to think about it like, okay, I don't feel empowered when I see that dance routine or I listen to that song. I feel grossed out. I feel like, all right, this is so crass and so, just blue. It makes me uncomfortable.
Cardi B, you are now in a position of privilege. You know that living a life like that doesn't make you happy. You're not happy. You have a husband that openly cheats on you. You know, you're filing for divorce, not filing for divorce. You don't feel secure in your own home. You've talked about that multiple times. And guess what? That's a dead-end career when you have to be more perversive than the last time. There's really only so perverse you can be. There's only so many, aside from being fully naked next time, right? I think she was in a thong and a bra. Try just being talented and not being controversial and perversive.
So yeah, I mean, obviously Cardi B songs get pretty raunchy, but you can't deny the talent. Let's not do a talent thing, because I'm bopping when I hear those songs. I'm bopping. Those are one of those that, like, you're kind of having a bad morning and you need to feel like a baddie, right? We all have those moments. Sometimes you got to feel like a baddie. You put that on and you're like, hey, up. Then it's up. You're like, I'm up. I'm waking up, right? It gets you, So there's talent there. If you want to take issue with the shaking or the lack of clothing, I guess. But what are we doing hello? That's life now. If you're not shaking, you're not making. That's what I say. I think I shook it one time on the show. This is how you make your way these days. No, I'm kidding. So it is kind of funny for her to be like, she's so vulgar, but that she's being vulgar. But I don't actually think those connect a ton, because Megyn Kelly would have to do a lot more to emulate what it was being brought up there, which again is artistically art. Do art if you want to do art in whatever way you'd like. Now, then Tucker jumps in and is like, hey, the DOJ is preparing to arrest me because I've been texting with Iranians, I guess is his argument. And so he's accusing the Trump administration of like spying on him and preparing to arrest him for being a foreign agent, which he says that he's not. He didn't, in the video I saw, provide evidence, but that is his allegation that he's learned that they're maybe building a case and they have access to his texts with Iranian officials. Then Marjorie Greene is very upset.
This is absolutely absurd, and it's 100% a betrayal to what MAGA was supposed to be when we voted in 2024, and it's turned into some perverted, deranged version of MAGA now that nobody wants. And a lot of people are just like, this doesn't make sense. And I'll go further, Pamela. We love our military, and God bless the men and women serving, and we love their families, and we do not want to see flag-draped coffins coming home in a war that does nothing for our own homeland. And then I want to add on something else. How insulting is it to Americans that the GOP can't even fund Homeland Security right now, our own government that protects our own homeland, while they're waging some war like 6,800 miles away in a country that none of us have ever been to, against a foreign people that none of us know, killing many of these people, even to the point of killing their children. It's just absolutely absurd.
Yeah, so I think we've already examined the arguments, and I've obviously laid out mine, and I agree with what she's saying there in a rare case. But I think now it's more interesting to examine why, and this is the answer. Why is this self-destructing so much? Because I guess there was genuine infighting within the left during Biden's administration. There really was. But this feels like a complete and total collapse of a movement as opposed to a tension within a movement. Like, aside from some examples, for the most part, the people fighting going into the 2024 election within the Democratic Party mostly still agreed on major principles. I don't really know now what MAGA agrees on. Like, what is the major principle in between a Marjorie, a Megyn Kelly, a Tucker, a Candace, a Mark Levin, a Sean Hannity? Across the media spectrum, I don't really know what is uniting all of them anymore. And it just feels like it's all crumbling down. And that makes sense. And that was predictable. When your movement is not based on actual coherent policy principles, that, of course, when it's initially a cult of personality based on grievances but lacking solutions. If it's just grievances and a demagogue and scapegoating, that's gonna rally some people, and you can point at, in some cases, real economic problems, and you can have a bunch of grievances, and you can build this coalition, and that's really doable when you're outside of power. Once you're in power, that type of movement is a house of cards, and it's gonna collapse because the governing relies on actual substantive policy principles, and that is not something MAGA has, which is why it's falling apart. Meanwhile, one of the people who's still loyal to Trump decided she was going to India, despite her saying heinous things about Indians. And I'll first show you her saying, she feels sort of responsible for Trump turning on a lot of the MAGA influencers because she'll go to him. Laura Loomer is like a close advisor of Trump sometimes, and tell him who's being disloyal in public to him. So I'll show you that, and I'll show you her getting confronted over her past racist remarks.
Well, look, I consider myself to be a Trump loyalist, and one of the things that makes our friendship and our relationship so unique is that I feel that the president can trust me to always give him advice on who's being loyal and who's being disloyal, and I spent a lot of time as an investigative reporter doing research into...
Investigative reporter. You look on X. That's it. You look on X. That's what your investigative reporting is.
Investigative reporter doing research into people who work in the administration who may be undermining his agenda or undermining the America First agenda. And, we talk about a lot of different things, but anytime I speak to the president, it's constructive. I'm giving him information that is going to be beneficial to him, helping him identify bad actors in the country, bad actors in his administration, informing him of people who are bad-mouthing him, and also making him aware of issues pertinent to the base.
So she's at some conference in India. I didn't see many clips other than that one, because it should concern everyone that she is a close advisor to Trump, given the person that she is and what she has said. And then to hear her, this is so embarrassing. People who go, yeah, my job is essentially being loyal to the president and telling him who's being disloyal. That's not what governing is supposed to be. It's not just supposed to be a game of how loyal to the leader are you. But that's how she sees her role. She takes credit for telling Trump that Tucker has been bad-mouthing him. And so then that's why Trump unleashed on Tucker. But this was the real viral moment where she's at this conference in India and a brave guy gets up to the mic and says, what the heck are we doing here listening to you? You've said heinous things about Indians, and just in general, you've been racist and Islamophobic and all that. And remember that Laura Loomer is the person who tweeted out before the election that if Kamala wins, the White House will, she doesn't want it because the White House will smell like curry. That's who Laura Loomer is.
And you made a statement. If Kamala Harris wins, the White House will smell like curry, and speeches will be facilitated via a call center. You then went on to say our country was built by white Europeans, not third world invaders from India. I think you should do more than just express regret. From what I can see, you're brazenly racist and Islamophobic. And I'm sorry to say that we have Atiti Devo Bhava in this country where we welcome all, but your comments smack of anti-Indianism, worse still, Islamophobia, and even worse, racism. which has no place, ma'am, in today's world. So get real, ma'am. Sorry to say that, but that comments are unacceptable to me as an Indian and as a world citizen.
Yep, that's what she deserves to have said to her. And then finally, we'll look at JD Vance, who's asked, there's reporting that behind the scenes you have...
What the hell happened to JD?
...philosophical differences with Trump. Is that true? Why aren't you doing a very good job of passionately defending your boss's choice to go to war in Iran? What's going on?
What we're doing? Mr. Vice President, the president said earlier this week that you had a philosophical difference than him, that you were less enthusiastic on the onset of this war. Is that true, and what is your opinion of how it's going?
Well, I think you guys, again, I answered this question earlier. I'm sorry about that, Taylor. You asked this question earlier. When you're thinking about a major decision like this, the way the president makes these decisions is he talks to a lot of people. Obviously, we're thinking about various ins and outs, various options, what this looks like, how to accomplish our goals, what our goals should be. And I think it's important for the President of the United States to be able to have that conversation with his team without his team then running their mouth to the American media. So part of what makes our national security team so cohesive is that we all trust each other and we all have a very free exchange of ideas. I'd like to keep that going. Thank you guys. Take care.
Okay, so that gave us nothing. That gave us absolutely nothing about his insights, except for to essentially admit that indeed he disagrees with Trump on this decision, which when even your vice president can't defend it, you know it's a bad decision. You'd think JD Vance, who I just want to say to him, now that he's going to hear this, but you know you have to just rely on however Americans feel about Trump. That's it. You're not going to get to play a game where you take what you perceive as the popular elements of what he's done or what he ran on and then merge that with, but I wasn't exactly with him on this or that. You decided to hitch your wagon to him, and now you're going to have to let him drag you wherever he goes, probably off a cliff. Vance is living in a delusional world where he thinks that he'll be able to kind of be quiet on some things and then emerge, and I'm the VP that everyone actually loves and I'm going to be president now. But in reality, Americans are just going to see him as running for a third Trump term, and he'll be judged on that basis, which is not going to be good by the time Americans get a full 4 years of Trump. All right, quickly, I want to thank Dizzy Dean Texas, who became a member by clicking the join button. Beth Hirt also became a member by clicking the join button, and so did La Dame. Past Alternative said, Luke, genuinely, thank you for everything you do. The world needs more people like you. I appreciate that so much. Let's get to one other example of someone who used to love Trump, now having big problems with him. Piers Morgan is increasingly getting very critical of Donald Trump after being one of the people who was just a cheerleader for Trump going into the 2024 election and thought that he should put more time and effort into a wokester on a college campus than an authoritarian aspiring to be in the White House. And so he helped usher Trump into the White House. But now, especially on Trump's insane decision to bring us to war, Piers Morgan is not having it and has been unleashing on his show and on other shows. Here's him as a guest on a show.
Piers, you're someone who has had lots of interactions with Donald Trump. Do you think he has a clue what he's trying to achieve in the Middle East?
No, I don't. And I think he's thought that he could pull a Venezuela here, decapitate the leadership of Iran, and it would all get settled quite quickly. And I think 2 weeks in, what is very clear is this is not going to get settled quickly. All the mission statements he's laid out have changed day by day, sometimes hour by hour. It was going to be regime change. It was going after the nuclear capability, which we'd been assured only 10 months ago had been dismantled already, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that what you've got is a very interesting war. Obviously all wars are interesting, but particularly interesting here, whether you've got the tremendously overwhelming superiority of the American and Israeli military combined, which is bigger than anything we've ever seen probably on planet Earth, up against the Iranians, who have played a very different strategy. They've gone after a war economically, and they've been very successful so far. But by controlling the Strait of Hormuz and by attacking its neighboring Gulf states in the touristy areas, they are sending a signal that we can't beat you necessarily militarily, but economically we can paralyze you.
And Piers,
and already we've seen that strategy. While it's true that Iran has been devastated, and sometimes, again, I just want to word this correctly because the defenders of Trump really try to weaponize, like we've seen in previous wars and administrations exploiting this, but weaponize the patriotism and our feelings toward the military and our troops, and say, if you point to how destructive the Iranian regime has been in economically disrupting things, and then also they literally have killed our troops now and have been striking neighboring nations, as Piers referenced there, then the defenders of Trump are like, oh, so you think our military is incompetent or is not strong or you don't stand with the troops or whatever? It's like, no, what are you talking about? Of course, there's vast military strength. Yes. And there's also major destruction going on. And the objectives that you would try to, not that it's reciting anything Trump said because he can't actually coherently explain it, but if you tried to put words in his mouth as to what the objectives would be here, that they're not going well. And we haven't actually really made much progress. Yes, we've done big destructions and we've killed people and we've decimated a lot of targets, but what's the goal? That Iran doesn't hate us and work to fund bad actors? That hasn't stopped. We probably just motivated them to do that more. There's a pro-Western regime now? No. Probably even more anti-American regime now. So even if we tried to first establish what the objectives could be if he could explain them well, which he can't, then compare how it's going to that, it's not going well. Before I show you, well, let me show you this clip of Piers, and then we're going to do a little flashback to when I warned Piers.
That is pretty low base for him. But it was an interesting point about what constitutes MAGA, because, of course, there are many people with pretty short to midterm memories who can remember Trump campaigning so vociferously to his MAGA base before the last election on saying, look, we're going to be America first. We're not going to go marching into Middle Eastern countries anymore. We're not going to wage foreign wars. We're not going to interfere in other countries. And we're going to fix the economy in the United States. We're going to get the cost of living prices down. We're going to end inflation. And it seems to me that it might be that President Trump has either forgotten what he said or wants to try and reframe what MAGA really means. Because if you're a MAGA voter, you must be slightly mystified. You may not want to admit it publicly because you think it betrays Trump, but you must be mystified that within a year of winning back the White House, the guy that campaigned on not going into the Middle East again, not waging foreign wars, focusing on America first and the US economy, has now launched the biggest war in the Middle East in my lifetime that America has waged. And that has inevitably sparked the biggest economic meltdown we've seen as a consequence of a war, not least because, as you said, about the Strait of Hormuz and the damage that is inflicting and the simultaneous.
So what is he saying there? Trump's betraying his base. Yes, that's obvious. Trump is contradicting his campaign promises. I don't need to repeat that again. That's the most obvious thing ever that we've talked about a bunch. But what comes to my mind while I'm watching that clip, other than, yeah, true, interesting, is, Piers keeps talking about how Trump was going to be the guy who fixes the economy. And how there's shock. I saw in this interview that Piers did with Tucker, that you were seeing there, that Tucker was going, all of the supporters that I know of Trump, they're not even mad. They're just heartbroken. They're just sad. It's a betrayal. It's like a slap in the face from dad. And they're so their heart's broken. That's it. That's how it's sadness. Okay. I understand that a little bit. You believed him for some reason, and now you feel betrayed by him, and you're sad because of it. But what if Piers had a handsome gentleman on his show days before the election who was screaming, literally, "You're focusing on the wrong things, Piers. You're distracting people from the real issues, Piers. And you should focus less on, as you're about to see here, Trump looking great in an apron at McDonald's doing a stunt, and more on how," and I list a few things, one of them is literally, economists are warning that Trump's economic policy will be disastrous. So Piers was listening to Trump over me. Where did that get him? Okay.
This McDonald's stunt by Trump was an absolute slam dunk, probably the best political stunt I've ever seen.
This is the perfect example of how Trump gets away with what he does. Because on policy, he's a failure. So he has to rely on these sorts of stunts to get people to like him. And the media finds it so fascinating, so they forget days before the election what really matters. Distract from the fact that days before an election he's promising to go after his political enemies. Distract from the fact that he's the most anti-democratic presidential candidate we've seen in
let me bring in
American politics. Distract from the fact that hundreds of economists are saying that Trump's plan would harm the economy.
Okay, let me bring in Larry. Larry, your response to this. I thought.
So, Larry, please jump in. I don't want to hear this from Luke. Can you imagine? He's on the record. You're on the record, and now it's my time. It's not about gloating. It's about boasting. No, it's not about like patting myself back. All of us were warning. But this clip, I think, should be humiliating to him. Just like how he went from writing an op-ed correctly, calling out Trump as extremely dangerous and a lunatic for January 6th, to being like, he's so awesome. And on the record, what you just watched was him, number one, giving more time to the McDonald's stunt, which was that Trump accused Kamala of not actually working at McDonald's, which she said she did. So then he went and did a shift at McDonald's. Haha, cute. And Piers literally let them talk more about how genius that was than me talk about what Trump's policy agenda would actually do to the United States. He cut me off. He didn't cut off his producers when they said, can we spend 10 minutes talking about how cute Trump was at McDonald's? That's humiliating. And that should be called out. Some people should be held accountable for misleading the public. And it was people like him. Where are your priorities? Why am I going to get cut off from talking when I explain the point about people who know about the economy saying we've examined what we can tell about Trump's plan, despite it being really disjointed and confusing, and it's not going to be good, and Kamala's would be better for the economy. And Piers is like, shut up! Wait, Larry,
I'm mogging you right now.
Tell me more about how great this was. Do you like how the fries matched the color of Trump's face? And that's what it gets you. That's what happens. You feel heartbroken. You feel destroyed emotionally by the fact that Trump is a big liar and that all this hasn't worked out like you thought it would. Maybe the people who were focusing during the campaign on substantive policy analyses instead of viral social media trends should have been listened to. And it wasn't just me, obviously. It was a bunch of people. So then you ask, what, are you still bitter about that? Yeah. I had to sit. I have a life. So just so you know, I had a life. Even back then I had a life. I have a better life now, but that's only for other reasons, not because of the Trump economy, please. That's because of meeting a lot of great people. But back then I still had sort of a life. It was a little bit too much work heavy, and I took time out of that life to sit and listen to him, Trump, over going to McDonald's. And then for all these guests, Dave Rubin and Larry, whoever Larry is, to be like, oh, you're such a liar. And I think that should be referenced, honestly. I think I get to bring that up. Did I already thank Beth for becoming a member? Not sure. But if I didn't, thank you so much. Okay, let's talk about this now. I understand that everyone detaches a little bit from their humanity when engaging on social media. It's a part of what's destructive about social media, that idea of a keyboard warrior, or when you're sitting behind a screen posting about stuff, you don't actually interpret it as engaging with real human beings. But of course, other than the bots, you are saying stuff to real human beings. And I think that there are certain experiences you should have on social media that make you go, maybe I should stop. Maybe I should re-examine my priorities, especially whenever you call yourself, very proudly, a patriot and a Catholic. This is someone named Olivia. I don't know how to pronounce that last name. Kroljic, who is a MAGA X account. And she posted this video of a little boy, a child, and said, bring back bullying. An adult influencer says, bring back bullying about a child because of this.
I just came back from Sephora, so here's a little haul for you guys. First thing I got was the Summer Fridays lip balm in shade Pink Sugar, I think. I was smelling it on the way back home. Guys, it smells so good. Guys, the lady was so nice there, and she gave me so many samples of the Laneige Water Bank moisturizer and a bunch of hair oils. Last thing I got was the Bella Flor cream from Sol de Janeiro. This one smells so good. I have it in the spray, and I needed to get it in the lotion because it's really good. Bye, guys. Follow for more.
So I literally don't know what you find worthy of condemnation there. I guess the argument from her and her followers is he's not masculine enough as a child. Bring back bullying. Something sick in your head if you see a kid being a kid and talking about the makeup that he bought and going, we should make him feel terrible about himself. And we should get... This has 12.4 million views. We should get millions of adults to hate on this child because we think he's too feminine or something. So this kind of backfired because the discussion became very quickly on social media. Wow, how pitiful of a human do you have to be an adult? Not just bullying. It's not even that she's just bullying, but calling for bullying. Wyatt Sharp said, Olivia, you downloaded a video of a 10-year-old just to mock him and encourage others to pile on. Strange behavior for someone with a cross in their handle claiming to be a woman of faith. But I suppose when you're hungry for clicks, as you clearly are, bullying a child online becomes okay. Grow up. So then a man by the name of Brylan Hollyhan jumps into this, okay? A man by the name of Brylan Hollyhan. And he decides that he should be the voice to say, yes, let's bully this child. And before I show you what he said, let me remind you of who he is. He's a MAGA influencer, and his last name's Hollyhan.
And we're seeing for the first time other nations respect us on the world stage. When's the last time that you had all of the private jets of the different world leaders across the country swarming to Detroit, St. Louis, and D.C. to grovel at the feet of the president, begging for him to take this off? They laughed at Joe Biden. They laughed at the previous administration. They laughed at the United States. Finally,
and this
we're
caption he
respecting
has,
beautiful.
this caption says, isn't it nice knowing the entire world knows the U.S. is no longer run by men in dresses? And so that Brylan Hollyhan said, children aren't born like this. We don't have a masculinity crisis in America. We have a fatherhood crisis. Boys are being raised by algorithms, activists, and screens instead of men who fear God and live with conviction. So apparently men who fear God and subscribe to the religion that has a Messiah named Jesus, who advocates powerfully love of thy neighbor, find it to be godly to go find a 10-year-old as an adult and bully them. Your life is sad, Brylan, and your last name's Hollyhan. So then Clark Lawson jumps in to respond to Brylan and says, Brylan, I did this as a child, before algorithms, with a father. I now have more testosterone and muscle in my pinky than you do in your entire body. And Clark is pretty buff. Protect the children until you get the opportunity to bully one on the internet. Right, protect the children. Hey, wee-oo, MAGA adults, go bully this child. Who honestly in that video seemed very sweet and kind of well raised and respectful. Who knows if that's true, but that is the vibe. And regardless, it's a 10-year-old child on the internet. Okay. And then you have Jared Schultz. Now we get to less substantive responses to Brylan, who says, your name is literally Brylan. I ain't listening to you about masculinity. Okay, then it gets a little lower. Dude, your name is Brylan Hollyhan. Sit this one out. Hi, I'm Brylan Hollyhan. And we gotta make sure we get more masculinity. The kids aren't masculine anymore. Signing out, Brylan Hollyhan. No. So, but that's not the point. Even if Brylan Hollyhan was super feminine as an adult, that's fine too. This is sad, insecure people behavior. This is what you do when you are a deeply sad, lonely, pitiful human being. Is you literally to audiences of millions of people. I don't know how many views this got. 800,000 views. So the other one had 12 million. This one has nearly 1 million views of almost exclusively adults hating on a 10-year-old boy for showing off some, like, what did he say? Skin cream or fake face makeup, etc. Whatever you get at Sephora. I don't go to Sephora too much, but Sephora. I've been there. I used to wear things for the show. Now I just get them delivered. But yeah, Sephora. He went to Sephora. What's the problem with Sephora? They have good things. High quality, too. Apparently, his parents are doing just fine if he can afford Sephora. No, I don't know if it's fancy or not. But this is it makes me sad, too, because let me look at the comments and maybe we can get some hope. If it's not all people trashing her, I'm going to be a little bit sad. Let's look. Ready? This is the original post. And the comments are, okay, yeah. Well, these are probably people bring back fathers. Okay. You're an adult calling. Okay, so a lot of people are calling her out. Oh, now they're making fun of her looks. Okay, so now it's getting it's getting what the internet does. Okay, they're making fun of her now. Well, that's not the way you approach it, but I'm seeing that the longer we're in this world of, okay, this is the part that really strikes me. Brylan tries to make it about algorithms raising your children, right? And that's why this kid isn't to his standards of whatever. But in reality, what he's demonstrating, what this Olivia figure is demonstrating, is how algorithms distort our humanity. They are doing the thing that is destructive about algorithms. Because I am certain that Olivia would not stand in front of that kid, look in his eyes and say, I wish you were bullied more. I'm certain. So this is cowardice and insecurity masquerading as bold takes. And this is how our love your neighbor, to use a phrase they're supposed to understand, mentality gets destroyed. Is people who, for clicks and outrage and virality, sacrifice their own humanity. All right, you have Tadium saying, so I'm kind of losing it because this AI influencer looks almost exactly like my friend of 20 years who's in the Navy. Kelsey Gate, step aside. Yeah, we're done with Kelsey Gate. The second that TMZ started also trying to do the meme, I was out. But maybe they used your friend's likeness. They might have done that, honestly. That's kind of crazy. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Who's been a member for 3 months said, hey, Luke, Jaden, and CBC, your manly man mechanic. Love y'all. Last I commented, CBC said he replaced his wastegate. Did the OG fail or more boost? What? Can you explain that?
More boost. Although mainly just did it for the blow off noise.
What are we talking about?
My car.
Oh, I know all about the wastegate. You gotta replace it from time to time. You know? And then the fluids too. You got to make sure the fluids are filled and the pistons and all of those things. Thank you, our manly mechanic. Love it. Did we get anyone else? Beth? I keep thanked her so many times. I keep thinking that's still going. Do we want to do this next one is the question. How many segments do we do? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? We already did 5? What was the 5th one? Okay. Yeah, let's do it. Let's go ahead and do it. Here we go. One of the most famous moments in the Oval Office, maybe ever, was Donald Trump berating Zelenskyy, who's the president of Ukraine, who at the time was just coming to Washington to say, I'd love to still have a good relationship with y'all. Can you give us support? I want a peace agreement, but it has to be a fair peace agreement that provides security guarantees. And he got berated for that. That's where the famous J.D. Vance line of have you thanked him even once came from. And one part where it got particularly heated was when J.D. Vance was getting on to Zelenskyy for the problems that Zelenskyy's military is having. For example, manpower problems. And Zelenskyy goes, yeah, we can still keep defending ourselves, but we do have problems. But everyone has problems in war. I'm happy that you guys aren't experiencing that right now, but one day you'll be at war and you'll have problems. And that's where Trump really jumped on him and was angry. Midas Touch wrote about this moment, then we're going to rewatch it. This moment from February 2025 may go down as one of the most prescient exchanges in modern diplomatic history. Zelenskyy warned Trump that while the United States may feel protected by an ocean today, a time could come when America would need help in war. Trump scolded him instead. Perhaps he should have listened. And not only is it a wild prediction that Zelenskyy said to Trump's face, I don't even think he meant it as like something bad. He just said, every country will deal with the problems of war at some point, or almost every country. And I'm so grateful that you guys aren't dealing with that right now. But don't like pretend like I don't have any quote unquote cards just because we have problems, as any country does whenever they're at war. Because Trump kept repeating that you don't have any cards line. And then something that he got to share with them came true. But not even just that, with all the problems we're now seeing in our war with Iran. But literally, it wasn't that the Trump administration had to ask for help. They had to ask for help from Ukraine, specifically. So it's that apt. Here was the moment.
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you are not strong...
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the President for trying to bring an end to this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine that you say what problems we have?
I have been to.
Come once.
I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what happens is you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President. Do you disagree that you've had problems bringing people into your military?
We have problems.
And do you think that it's respectful to come to the Oval Office of the United States of America and attack the administration that is trying to prevent the destruction of your country?
A lot of questions. Let's start from the beginning.
Sure.
First of all, during the war, everybody has problems, even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless.
You don't
God
know
bless.
That.
You will not have war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that. Remember this. You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very good.
You will feel influence.
We're going to feel very good and very strong.
You will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
From the very beginning of the war.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having cards. But right now, you don't. Yeah, you're playing cards.
Mr. President.
You're playing cards.
Serious.
You're gambling with the lives of millions of people.
So, this clip is going viral. Now that obviously, because of Trump's decision to start a war with Iran, we're learning he was obviously correct and should not have been screamed at for that. Which is to say, it was as if Vance was saying, you shouldn't be demanding an actual peace agreement. We shouldn't even say a specific peace agreement. Like an actual, it's not a peace agreement if Putin the next day could violate it. So an actual peace agreement with actual protections that still hasn't happened despite Trump saying he was going to end the war in 24 hours. And so demanding that is irrational, according to Vance, because you have a lot of problems. So you just need to agree to whatever we want to shove down your throat. And then Trump's going, you don't have the cards, so you should agree to whatever, even if it means that your military is weakened, Russia's is strengthened, and they have time to prepare for another invasion. And he's going, wait, having problems doesn't mean that you just give up or stop standing for what would allow for the survival of your country. You guys, at some point, you're in a unique position because of the oceans protecting you and allies, north to south, oceans, east to west. But you'll learn eventually that there are problems. And this is English as second language, so he's like not able to probably nail in the way he could in Ukrainian exactly the point that he's making. But that was the prediction. And what are we dealing with? All sorts of problems, so much so that we're asking Ukraine for help. Ukraine previously came to us saying, we'll work with you on technology in effectively shooting out of the sky and defending against Iranian drones, because Iranian drones are being used in Russia's invasion. So they have a lot of intelligence on that, and they could help the United States prepare for that. The Trump administration ignored them and said, nah. And now they're going, okay, yeah, actually, we would like to support on that because now we're dealing with Iranian drones. despite the unique position we're in geographically that allows us to be very strong in defending ourselves against the homeland, we're still seeing the major disruptions. The U.S.-Iran war is the biggest oil supply disruption in history. These are the problems that happen. Does this mean in Trump's mind and Vance's, based on the way they were berating Zelenskyy, that we should just give up on everything? Well, in this case, maybe we should stop, but...
What's happening in the Strait of Hormuz isn't only affecting oil and gas prices. Farmers here in the U.S. are concerned about how high the price of fertilizer could get because of this disruption to trade. And according to a chief economist from Wolf Research, this could raise food at home inflation by around 2 percentage points.
You have so many different Fox's Stuart Varney declares the Iran war not going that well as oil prices rise. It is very confusing that American heroes die and we blow up a school of a bunch of children and our allies are being hit and civilians are being killed. And it felt like we didn't see a lot of concern in the center-right media. But then now that oil prices are going up, now there's a lot of concern. It is a concern, to be clear, but it's weird that is what actually pushes them over the edge. And it's very confusing on that note whenever the president is trying to say, actually, that's good. He says, when oil prices go up, we make a lot of money. Okay, oil companies can. That's not good for your average American. And this is causing Trump to lift sanctions on Russian oil, as we've talked about. That at one point, a screenshot was taken, caused on the right, the Russian stock market to go up. And all of this news has caused the American stock market to go down. Meanwhile, a U.S. embassy is burning after being struck by missiles as the Iran war rages on. In the United Arab Emirates, an oil facility caught fire after Iran drone strike amid U.S. troop deployment in the UAE. And you got these economic figures.
Meantime, look to hold after the lowest close of the year yesterday. Eco data, a bit of a stagflationary tone, hot core PCE, lowest GDP print in almost a year.
Yeah, we saw this revision, by the way. The U.S. economy grew just 0.7% last quarter, ahead of potentially destabilizing war with Iran. So going into this, we saw really slow economic growth. We saw that contraction. Now we have slow economic growth. And do you remember when Tim Pool screamed at me for saying that GDP growth had slowed? And he was like, that's so dumb. That's like, it has. It absolutely has under Trump. And the job market has gotten worse. And Tommy Vietor says the wars in Iran and Lebanon are spiraling out of control. Iran has mined the Strait of Hormuz. Hundreds are dead in Lebanon and 800,000+ have been displaced. Trump has unleashed chaos on the world. So was Zelenskyy correct that any nation at war will deal with problems? Yes. Is there a big difference in Zelenskyy, despite those problems, having to continue to fight until a fair peace agreement happens versus Trump sort of chose to start this with no end goal in mind, so ending it would actually probably be very logical? Yeah, there's a big difference there. But you can see why that clip is recirculating and going viral, given just how notable of a moment it was. All right, that's where we're gonna... No, we're not. Let's keep going. What the hell? It's Monday. Let's keep going. One more segment. I'm getting sweaty. It's cold outside, so I think Jaden made it a little toasty, but now it'll get a little too toasty for me. Let's talk a little bit about a press gaggle that Trump had aboard Air Force One, where he admits to something or squirms around an issue that is so disgusting. The U.S. president has one of his pro-Trump PACs sending out fundraising emails with a photo of him at a dignified transfer of fallen soldiers, as it exploits the support of Americans for troops that have died because of Trump deciding to launch this war and an Iranian strike, to fundraise. And so I ask you, is that more insane as a fundraising technique than it's saying Trump needs to make sure you're not an undocumented immigrant, so if you don't click this button, he thinks you might need to be deported? I don't know, because that was one of them as well. But here's him being asked about this fundraising email. So once again, it turns into him shouting at the reporter and berating the reporter instead of substantively engaging with what is an insane thing for him to do. Fundraising off of the deaths of Americans that he put at risk. But his targeting of the media is more than just rhetorical. And before we get back to more clips from that press gaggle, we have real news on this. Before we get to it, this is a graphic Trump posted. And you know how I'll bring up to defenders of him, hey, he's waging this war on the media. If you care about the First Amendment, he's definitely not abiding by it. And they go, no. Oh, friends of Trump taking over huge media entities and then leveraging that power to make them more pro-Trump? Nah, that's just like the private market happening. Oh, Trump's FCC threatening licenses, abusing companies to get people fired or to change their coverage. They would have done that anyway. They're just they're just going by the books. Oh, this. Oh, he's suing people and then he's forced to settle. That's all just life at work. He's not trying to put his finger on the scale. Well, then he reposts a graphic that's like, hell yeah, that's what I'm doing. Look, President Trump is reshaping the media as the graphic. And then it says gone, and it lists anchors he didn't like that in some cases he pushed media outlets to fire. Then reforms, and it says new ownership at CNN is one of them. And ABC did a settlement. So he's saying reforms are examples of getting companies to pay him after he legally abuses them or gets his buddies to take over news corporations, and then we'll, as Pete Hegseth was referencing, we'll change the coverage to be more pro-Trump. And then winning is the last part of this graphic, and it says Trump is waging war against the media and winning. So when I say Trump's waging a war against the media, which is not in the interest of the First Amendment, MAGA goes, oh my gosh, that's so hyperbolic, it's not happening. Trump posts that he's waging a war against the media. So that's obviously very notable. Logistically, what does that mean? I gave you some examples. Here's another bit. The FCC commissioner or chair, Brendan Carr, threatened pulling the licenses of broadcasters pushing what he calls fake news or bad coverage of the Iran war. So he sends out a post being like, hey, I'm seeing coverage of the war and it's so bad. And so the FCC might have to get involved to punish these organizations or take away their ability to broadcast altogether if they're not doing administration. This is not his wording, but the subtext is administration approved content. This is authoritarianism. That's what this is. You have to cover things the way I want or you get ripped off the air. Adam says, FCC to journalists, cover the Iran war the way the president prefers or lose your broadcast licenses. You have Trump threatening to sue Maggie Haberman after calling her maggot Haberman, after she went on TV and said stuff he didn't like, and then maybe is working on a book that he doesn't want to come out. And this is a very destructive media landscape that Trump has created. Then he gets asked about sending troops to Iran.
See what happens.
Can you explain why we're sending 5,000 Marine sailors? Can you explain why you're
very obnoxious, President. Go ahead.
What was that? What did he do here?
sending 5,000 Marine sailors?
He said, shh, hey.
You explain why you're
very obnoxious, President. Go ahead.
So the question is, can you explain why you're sending 5,000 Marines and sailors if we're not going to do a ground invasion? And he says, you're an obnoxious person. It's an insult. So is this to all of the heroes risking their lives.
Military strategy. We're talking about, who would answer a question like that?
Do you have a comment on the 6 service members from last week?
Who else?
What do you want to see that deal?
Do you have a comment on the fallen soldiers? Who else? Who else? In any situation, I'll repeat this, I would be terrified by the prospect of a war like this. But then you reminded me who the commander-in-chief, or as some put it, commander-and-chief, is, and it makes me that much more horrified. Now that is today's show. That's where we'll actually wrap up. So many segments. Goodness gracious. Hillary Badillery sent another gift of membership. I appreciate it greatly. Thank you all so much for watching and listening. Be back tomorrow. Much love. Talk to you then.